This is
the
actually why
immediate
I'm glad.
modernization.
This is actually why I'm glad I don't do so much reading, and I stick with like at most. Like I said, I'm currently trying to listen through Marx, and like I really don't want to go too much farther than that because I feel like you get into a lot more murky territory and like a lot more reinterpretation of Marx's work. I like him for the most part. I've seen like 2, not speeches, but like things of his. I mostly liked what he had to say. He's interesting.
We believe that 2016, for the first time in decades in the history of the United States,
Right.
introduced real political distinction and the Schmittian sense of enmity. Because for decades, the Democrats and Republicans, that was not really a political distinction. It was a distinction on the basis of a mutual recognition of the fulfillment of the same interest. And miraculously, somehow.
Well, I mean, wait a minute. Well, certainly after Reagan, the Democrats moved a lot more to the center than they had previously, but that's also a response to Reagan's like overwhelming election wins. But yeah, and also I don't really think it's that simple. Also, the idea that there's not a difference between Democrats and Republicans is pretty fucking insane. Mainly because like, if you ask a Republican if they think Democrats are the same as Republicans, they'd laugh in your fucking face. They'd be like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" Like, any Republican would tell you, like, no, like Joe Biden is. What do you mean? Like, he's so different to any Republican we'd ever vote for. So.
This kind of clown, Donald Trump. I mean, let's remember this guy's from The Apprentice. I mean, it was very funny he got elected. Let's be honest.
Well,
he kind of drove.
I mean, if you want to collapse, like, if you're on the far left and you want to just collapse everybody to your right, and you have no like understanding of how like gradients work, then yeah, you can come to that determination. It's a stupid one, but yeah.
These two camps insane. You see the same George W. Bush Republicans and the good old Democrats, they suddenly are united in the face of this threat. And typically the leftist characterization of the MAGA movement has been, this is the ground of a neo-fascism.
Right. I would agree.
To me, I don't see MAGA as inherently fascist. I don't see it as inherently communist. I don't see it as inherent. It's just American politics, but articulated in a grassroots and non-institutionalized form. So, of course,
grassroots in a non-institutional form, but it's just American politics encompasses quite a lot of things. I don't think something can be the whole of American politics. Certainly, like, the MAGA movement has a lot of culture war, but like economically, they're rather incoherent.
Communist ideas prevail among MAGA. Of course, many other GOP and Democrat conceptions prevail among MAGA. But the key thing is that the foundation of these ideas is no longer based in the hegemonic institutions. It's authentically based in what these people actually believe. And therefore, it is a fertile ground for the propagation of ideas.
Wait, the MAGA movement is all about Trump. That's the only thing it's actually about. Their only interest is like to consolidate power under an executive, and that executive would be Trump. Like, what does he mean that there's no hierarchy? The idea that like people who are voting for Donald Trump or people who subscribe to the MAGA movement, I guess, does Haas think that they have no interest in hierarchy? Like, what?
Which for a long time could not be propagated because of an institutional barrier.
So then what is it, America First communism?
Well, I'll put it this way.
That it certainly is, Shrek.
Marxism, Leninism,
is.
And this is what the origin of communism with a capital C in modern times is, right? We can go into the history, but basically everyone was a social democrat or called himself a socialist before the October Revolution of 1917, which reintroduced the term communism and repopularized it. And it was Stalin who canonized this
Stalin? I thought it was the Jews, according to Robin.
into an ideology called Marxism-Leninism. And if you read Stalin's Foundations of Leninism, he says the key contribution that Lenin introduces for Marxism is the national question. So you see with socialism in one country,
so like the
which is
worst
kind of
fucking part
Stalin's,
of the Soviet Union.
interpretation of the
One of the
construction
worst parts, they're
socialism.
hyper-nationalism.
Marxism-Leninism
Great.
is already, in the American context, MAGA. It's already America first when applied to the American context. The reason there's been a confusion about this among leftists who call themselves communists is because they are
This is not
influenced
me.
by the Trotskyist strain or the
No, I'm
kind of
not.
CIA-funded, compatible left, as they say, type of Marxism. But
What?
Marxism-Leninism foundation.
You remember when I said Robin was like he would say stuff that only he understands the context for? This is the opposite end of that. This is people who I guess Haas is, I don't know if I don't give a shit if he's a leftist. But like this is what that looks like. Where you go where like you're using terms and you're using vague like gestures towards things instead of being specific because you know what you're talking about, but nobody else does. And only people in the in-group understand it. For Haas, it's like these weird ML types or whatever. I don't know what the fuck faction of the left he's in. But for Robin, it's, I don't know. I don't know what pools he swims in. But, you know, when he says stuff about teachers and being unspecific and not just saying what he has an issue with the education system, that's the equivalent to this. Dean Phillips. What do I think of them? Oh, I have no idea who that is.
Is patriotic and national in form.
Well, let me throw it to you, Trevor. What do you? I mean, you were talking about communist influences of the Democratic Party and things
Right.
like this. So,
Right.
how would you respond? What's your view of communism?
Rather,
Well, my
not
view of
powerful,
communism, as Has says, you know, what I see MAGA communism is basically an Americanized form of Duginism. So this is a movement. See, there are two strands in modern American communism. There's what I would call a feminine strand, which is wokeism,
naturally.
which is you know, like,
Oh, is this guy like an anti? Okay, cool. So let's be clear. This guy is just your boilerplate woke equals bad type guy, but because he's British, he needs to sound slightly more intelligent. So he just turns it into feminine communism. Right. Gotcha. Right. It was cultural Bolshevism before. Yeah. Okay, whatever.
Just accept everybody. Let's just break down the barriers. Major emphasis on anti-racism. You know,
Do you notice he's saying all of these
transgenderism,
things like
all
they're
these
bad?
isms. These all come out of Marxism, but it is the feminine side, and Has is right.
I remember. Yeah. You know, I've been listening. I've actually been trying to do my homework and listen to Marx, and I do remember the entire chapter on transgenderism. That is true.
There's a big Trotskyist
Jesus.
influence there. Whereas what we're talking about here is more
What
the
a fucking
masculine
idiot.
side of communism. This
This is what happens when your
Stalinism,
voice betrays
Stalinism,
your intelligence.
Stakhanovite. I can never say the word Stakhanovite communism. This is a masculine nationalist form of communism, which overlaps
it's called-
to some
yep.
degree with
Yeah,
fascism.
it's yeah,
Dugin was basically
which would be
trying to
how we
unite
describe the Soviet Union.
almost the right.
Keep in mind, the
wing
Soviet
of
Union was not
communism with the left
communist
wing of
or
fascism.
socialist in nature at
So
all.
what I'm seeing here in this MAGA
Free
communist
Palestine in
movement
Europe from
is something that draws on Stalinism.
so many people that were
uses
betrayed
the
by
national
their
question,
yeah.
and national question means that the old original Marxism was, you know, you use the class struggle. You know, the workers will rise up and take the control of the means of production from the bosses. The nationalities question, or the national question, is where you find minority populations or racial minorities or religious minorities, and you foster
Bye,
a
telepath.
sense of revolution amongst them, and that will be patriotic. They will play on you know, they use the like in Ireland, they would use the patriotism of the Catholics against the Protestants. In
Christ above.
the Stalinists for a long time tried to create a black republic in the south of America by using this sort of a nationalist sense amongst the black population. So they're doing that with Native Americans now, with La Raza, this kind of thing. So what I see here, MAGA communism to me is an amalgamation.
Holy shit, dude. We took that entire aside. Fuck, I sat through all of that. Oh, my fucking brain hurts. That guy just went on forever to say absolutely nothing, just to come back to drive back and park at the. And anyway, MAGA communism. Jolio. It's what it's not is it's not it's not about a bunch of woke nonsense. Christ, get on with it, man.
Of traditional fascism and communism,
Okay.
using nationalism,
Traditional fascism
and
okay.
a strong masculine emphasis.
Wait,
which,
nationalism and oh god, oh my god, it's like when people don't really have a definition of fascism, which, like, one of the harder things about fascism is that there really isn't a concrete and consistent definition. It's rather like what makes like fascism so dangerous is how malleable and tailored it can be to each society. But holy shit, dude, it's like, is nationalism not already baked into your definition of like fascism? Like, I feel like you can't start the conversation of fascism without already having, like, your first ingredient is nationalism, rabid nationalism.
which appeals to the young guys who are just sick of the feminine pansy wokeism.
Yeah.
But both.
Oh my god, we're totally looking at masculine. cut to Tim, totally masculine.
Proper names and
guy.
nouns. Let's start from the beginning. Haas, do you
Holy
think
shit.
that the public, the workers, should own the means of production? How do we begin?
Yes, I believe in sovereign ownership of the means of production.
So you mean like the state controls it, or what?
Of course, yes.
Wait,
wait, your
what?
views, good sir?
Okay, so already we're off to a lovely start. Yeah, so what Haas is describing there is not, at the very least, a workplace democracy that I support. What he's describing is like state communism, which is more akin to what the Soviet Union had, during the Cold War, which we kind of saw how that worked out. Not something, and it's mainly because it's this conception that the people are the state are the people. But again, all you're creating, at least in my estimation, is a different kind of hierarchy, but a hierarchy nonetheless.
I think the state should be minimally involved in the economy. The only real role of the state is in the judicial system and in national defense. So no, I absolutely oppose state ownership of assets. I don't like public ownership of assets. And that would be, I think, the defining difference between me and Haas is that.
What about the roads? How do we get around without roads? Without public infrastructure? Like, I want everyone to remember, every time people say that, like, the government shouldn't be involved in, like, anything other than, like, defense and what the fuck else did he say? And, like, judiciary stuff, which is basically legal structures. Keep in mind, that means, where are your roads? Where are people getting educated? How are your roads being built? Where are they being built? Who builds the bridges? Who maintains the bridges? Leaving this all up to private interests. Guess what that's going to do? There's going to be one road going from the factory to the fucking shipping yard, and that's it. That's the only road that's going to exist. They'll put down some dirt shit for all of the workers, or they'll just build a fucking company town. That's, then you don't have to worry about roads if you live right next to the plant. Like, yeah, no, this is Jesus Christ.
Opposite. The individual, the local should direct production and own property.
Well, I actually believe Sovereign ownership of the means of production precludes two things.
What does he mean
One,
by
what
sovereign?
Lenin calls and what
Wait a minute. What the fuck does he mean sovereign ownership? Like sovereign ownership. Is a okay. Let's see. They put filler words sound. Yeah, no, yeah, really. Self-ownership is the concept of right. What the fuck? This is what happens when you read too much. That like people say like read more. Don't read this much. This is too much. Like I understand sovereign means like like one's own, like I understand this concept, but what does he mean sovereign ownership in terms of the state? Like that can't be the state. The state is not a okay.
Marx actually originated in his sovereign ownership of the means of production precludes two things. One, what Lenin calls and what Marx actually originated in his 18th Brumaire is the smashing of the state machinery, that we cannot simply lay hold of the ready-made state that exists, the insane bureaucracy that corresponds. And Marx actually talked about this to the capitalist society, but the state must be remade anew, simplified, made efficient, and to an extent, yes, minimalized, because it is the aspiration of communism to basically relegate the state to its bare necessities and for the eventual dissolution of the state, obviously, and into free association.
You're saying
when
absolute idealistic communism is people all
dude.
just agreeing and working together or something?
No. There's still a centralized oversight of production, but it's what Friedrich Engels calls the administration of things and not people. So you have a centralized oversight of production, but the necessity of the forceful suppression of opposition, for example, disappears. And this is projected to be at the time when the material foundation of the state as an organ of class dictatorship withers away. Now, many people doubt that this is possible, and
dude.
It's somewhat of a theoretical
It's like 2.5 of 3.
question, but as relevant now, I don't want the current American government to own more.
Like, keep in mind, Haas is somebody who is rather supportive and defensive of the Soviet Union. That should tell you everything you need to know about his vision of communism. To him, I'm pretty sure, and I don't know this for a fact, but like I'm willing to go out on like a limb on this one and say that he probably thinks China is like a communist country. So that should kind of tell you everything. Oh,
I don't
my
want the
goodness.
current American state to control more. What I want is a completely remade state, a state fashioned from the ground up based on, yes, local forms of power, amalgamated and centralized to authentically represent the interests
Dude has no fucking clue
of
what's
the
happening.
overwhelming majority. And this is where it may surprise you. It is a goal for
will
the state
surprise
to be
me.
minimally involved in production. Sovereign ownership of the means of production just means that foreigners, that private interests cannot gobble up the resources and land of the country. But as to who manages that land and
But that
who
has-
sees to it,
But that has nothing to do with. That has. Okay. When Marx wrote about communism, like back about a year or two ago, like what he's mostly laying out is the relationship of workers to owners. That's overall what he's like describing, and what a vision, what the world would look like under a societal structure where more democracy was placed in the hands of workers, where every single day you go into work and you have a say in how you're working, what you're making, who it goes to, things of that nature. That's the key to all of this, is are the people who are creating the products, creating value, creating the things that we build society on, that we entertain ourselves with, that we consume, that we digest, all of it. Are these resources being controlled by the mass of people? That is at the end of the day, the core of Marx's writings. Is Marx wants to see the society driven by the people who are doing the work in that society, not the people who own the factory, the people who work in the factory, because there are 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 of them, and there's only one owner, and one owner should not be deciding for hundreds, if not thousands of people, the direction of their labor. That's all. It's not that complicated. I feel like people make like Marxism and turn all of this stuff into this kind of word salad bullshit. At the end of the day, what we are seeking is a change and evolution in the relationship of the worker to the owner. That's what I want to see. In all of this talking, I have no fucking clue what Haas wants. I have no earthly goddamn idea what this dude fucking wants. Does he want more worker power? Does he want less worker power? Does he want worker democracy? Does he want private ownership? Does he want forced public ownership? Does he want worker co-ops? Is there a threshold in which any company, corporation, anything, is there a threshold to pass where the workers begin to create too much of the value in the I don't fucking know. I have no fucking clue what this guy wants. I don't know what vision of society this person wants, which is like frustrating, because as somebody who is, I'd probably be labeled as a socialist. I just come on here and I talk. I'm on the left. I'm sure of that. Everything else is kind of, I leave up to other people's interpretation. I don't really know if it's for me to say where I land on the political spectrum, especially in terms of gradations on the left. But like, for fuck's sake, man. Like, I like this sort of stuff fucking, it just shows how like I think this is emblematic of of LARPing, quite frankly. I can't imagine doing this much talking and saying like absolutely nothing without just like that's what I do. I LARP. Like, ugh. Anyway, continue.
Its production. This is something, ideally speaking, should be as local as possible. This is China's kind of household responsibility system, which did delegate production down to the lowest level, the family.
Fuck me. Yeah, like down to the lowest level. Like, yeah, communism is when the state is interested in the fucking like running of your of your household. Like, and like that's how deep it got in the Soviet Union. Like, it is not like this is somehow like it's not like this is somehow this comports with any kind of like worker democracy or the rights of workers.
Simple question: what does means of production mean?
The means of production basically refer to
okay, let's see.
The fundamental basis and conditions for the production of things.
Only material things? What about intellectual property?
No, there's no such thing in the Marxist view. Basically, I view personally intellectual property as a scam. Basically, even
wait, what? Wait. Okay. Give me that definition again. Jesus. No.
The means of production basically refer to the fundamental basis and conditions for the production of things.
Only material things? What about...
Okay, I get... Okay. So if I was going to simplify that, it's pretty much the means of production is essentially the resources to produce goods and services. That's like that's all you need. The means of production are literally, it's the building, it's the metal, like it's the building, it's the machine you work on. If you work on a computer, it's the computer. If it's the software, it's the software. If it's a mouse, it's a mouse. Like, the means of production are, like, if it's my stream, it's this table, it's these screens, it's that camera, it's stuff like that. Like, the means of production is how it's the building, it's all that sort of stuff. Oh my God. Okay. And when people say workers seize the means of production, what that means is that workers are working with all of these things. These are all just tools to create products. But without the input of a worker, those tools are fruitless. They mean nothing. Meaning, without the input of the worker, none of the means of production mean anything. They are useless without our input. Meaning, we are not half of the equation. We are more like 70 to 80% of the equation. Meaning that the person who owns the, let's say, the computer in your office should not be just because they own the computer that you do the work on, does not mean that they should own 100% of the value that you're creating on that computer and then chipping you off a piece of that. You are creating more value than that computer can create on its own. That's the simplified version. Good
Intellectual
God.
property.
No, there's no such thing in the Marxist view. Basically, I view personally intellectual property as a scam, basically. Even in terms of classical liberal values, I think
By
it's a
the
transgression
capitalism?
of-
What's the capitalism,
I think it's
Oliver?
completely illegitimate.
Intellectual property.
Yes.
So what about? So what's the incentive then for invention if you can't own what you've invented?
Well, no, that's how, like, shut guys, that's how systems work. We had feudalism during slavery. We had capitalism during feudalism. That's just kind of how it works. Like, this is the evolution of socioeconomic systems.
To, like, hide the secrets and make sure no one ever finds out how you did it.
I believe credit can be given to people.
Is a pickaxe the means of production? It could be considered so, yeah. Subsidizes socialism, basically. What do you mean capitalism? Like that? Wait, a system subsidizes another system? What? Still laboring for wealth, but under socialism is heavily taxed and redistributed. Socialism isn't when taxes, you fucking troglodyte, you goddamn idiot. All right, you're getting really close. Actually, you know what? Actually, okay. That earned you this. That earned you a timeout. Yep. Nope. You're gonna. No. That earned you a timeout. Fat enough. Oliver's taking your stead now.
And notoriety and fame and due glory can be given to inventors and creative geniuses. But one of the things I dislike...
Oh, for Christ's sakes. For socialism, a wealth Paris to exist, it needs wealth generation system. Oh my God. Okay, am I going to have to time you out too, Oliver? Is that what we're doing? Is that what we're doing? Am I timing out people who don't make concrete points and who aren't really saying anything other than characterizing one system and, like, or well, I guess in this case, two systems? Can you explain how any of that actually, you know what? Don't bother, because we're gonna get through this video and then I'm done with stream. But, you know, save it for next time. You know what? Actually, let me be a little bitch right now. Let me be a little bitch content creator. Oliver, X-Files, 1973. We're not going to get into this because I'm finishing this video and then I got to actually bounce. So what you should do is hit that follow button. I'll be back Wednesday and we can have this discussion, you know, maybe on call if you would like. I invite anybody who wants to have a disagreement. Or you can, like, come hang out and chat. But yeah, let's get through this video so I can get out of here so I'm not late.
Like about intellectual property is that one's product should be good on the merits. If someone can simply replicate your product, I don't think this steals anything from you. I think they're
Well,
just
I mean, let's try this. If
You got a
it
warning.
was,
Yeah, you got a warning to chill out on the anti-Semitism
if it was
stuff,
legal
and you calm
within the
down.
current system for people to
but-
take all of my content that I produce and
Mhm.
immediately re-upload it whatever they wanted,
like to give
I would
people a
cease to
chance,
exist
but-
overnight. So, for instance, my morning show,
There's only so much
Tim Pool
frustration
Daily
I'm willing
Show,
to sit through.
I produce 4 segments per day, and
Uh-huh.
they're not allowed to be taken. Right? It's my opinion, my commentary. There is fair use arguments, so there's a limit to people are allowed to take it, play the video, and talk
Like
over
this?
it. 'Cause
Oh,
it's not
wait,
a
let me switch
replication
back over,
of the
sorry.
work; it's something different. But if there was no intellectual property controls, as soon as I uploaded the video, 70 other channels would upload the exact same thing. It would decentralize my ability to generate ad revenue, attention, and make money, and I'd stop doing it instantly.
So for content creators, it is a necessity right now. I'm not going to deny that. But I think with two things, the advances of technology and a transformation of the financial system. See, one of the reasons
Well, first of all, you don't even need to get rid of intellectual property. The idea that intellectual property is like incompatible, it's not really all that incompatible, especially in terms of technology. Like, I don't think anybody should own, like, I have no problem, I guess, with somebody maybe like owning the like source code or like the like original algorithm for like Google, but that person isn't managing and isn't like doing all of the things that keep Google functioning after that initial creation. That takes thousands upon thousands of other engineers. So like, you know, it's not really, you know, it's not really like, I don't know, intellectual property. And like, if you're creating media, that's also, I don't think the same as intellectual property. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if that falls under that, because like intellectual property usually is around, I guess it's around like brands, to which like, yeah, you can't steal somebody's brand. Like, you know, I can't steal Bugs Bunny. I mean, I guess you can now because he's public domain, but like you couldn't before. And I think that makes sense. You know, like you make a character, you make like a whatever. I think it's fair to be like, hey, you know, you can't just use that and like, you know, make money off of my creation. That makes sense to me.
content creators rely on intellectual property is
See
they
you
need
later,
it to
guys.
generate revenue.
You have a
The
lovely
means
night.
of generating revenue for someone who's uploading your content to their channel and your channel seem to be the same, right? But with, for example,
shit. Okay.
innovations in the sphere of software technologies like blockchains, there are ways to verify and authenticate the original source of
But what does that mean? I mean,
the origin.
if I can't control
Right.
how the revenue generation for a piece of content, it doesn't matter if people know it's mine.
I think it can matter because if we, for example, entering into the fourth industrial revolution and a kind of post-commodity money economy, your acquisition of wealth could very well be tied to your signature, your blockchain signature, rather than simply some kind of exchange of like
I think I hate technology.
views for dollars.
So
for
you're
example.
saying that that signature is is intellectual property. If so, no matter where the content is posted, the revenue comes.
Not
to
only
me.
that,
Well,
not only that, but for Tim, it's like, Tim, you are the intellectual property. Like you're like you are the intellectual property. I don't like. But
I
again,
wouldn't
I'm
say
not
it's
with Haas on
intellectual
this.
property
I don't
because there's
think
nothing
we should abolish
preventing
intellectual
someone,
property.
just like an
That sounds
NFT,
silly.
for example. There's nothing preventing someone for like downloading the JPEG and doing whatever they want with it. What they can't do is fake the signature.
But what does that do for the person?
Yeah,
who
but
made it?
too bad NFTs are fucking stupid. Like,
it gives
is
you
this
a
a defense of
signature. It
NFTs?
confirms that it's yours. That this is
how
the
does
original
how does
thing.
it buy my milk? Right, milk, bread, and eggs. Like, are you saying, like, would the state just give me free food? Is everyone going to get free food, or?
holy
No,
shit, this
by
is
the
like,
way, I don't. To be clear,
what the fuck?
the version of the communist system of the 20th century
Oh, no.
with rations and
Uh-huh.
with standardization of
Right?
basically what everyone gets based on what they do, that was a
Yeah,
requirement
what was it?
for
To
the
every man his
goals
means, or whatever the
of
fuck.
those circumstances, which was
This is
the
actually why I'm
immediate
glad. This is
moderniz-
actually why I'm glad I don't do so much reading, and I stick with like at most. Like I said, I'm currently trying to listen through Marx, and like I really don't want to go too much farther than that because I feel like you get into a lot more murky territory and like a lot more reinterpretation of Marx's work.
of the productive forces from a backward agrarian and feudal economy in a dynamic,
Like the question to me is
information-based
always, do
economy,
workers
and
are workers
increasingly
driving
decentralized, consumer
decision
economy,
making
for example,
in a democratic
it's
manner?
much more similar
Like
to
those are the
China,
things I care
where
about.
there isn't this kind of uniform compensation.
This
for what
whole
you
the
do.
state owns
it is
and
measured
operates
based
and
on
da-da-da-da-da.
some. So, for example,
It's just
it
picking
can
a
be
different hierarchy to me.
profit, for example, is a form of the measurability of how successful you are. But I think
So let's go back to
yeah.
that point then, specifically on the intellectual property
Right.
question. If I put up a video
uh,
that takes hours of research and I record a live, 30 minutes,
I wish.
and then as soon as it uploads, 100 other people re-upload it to their accounts, like, how do I profit from that? Are you saying that because the content is verifiably mine, any revenue generated from anyone else just comes to me?
you have to ask the question, when we're entering into this new type of information economy, it's currently outdated how it works. We get revenue in dollars for something, a form of capital that I think is more worth more than money, right? Basically, I think clout is more valuable than money today.
Excuse
I
me?
don't know if you agree.
But it is. But how
well,
do you eat?
that
right?
would
You need
explain
money to buy food.
Yeah, that would be
this
a question
entire
of I mean,
interview so far.
we want to innovate everything. We're basically talking about a fourth industrial revolution. So we must also think about how to innovate the entire financial system, how money works, how currency works, and so on and so on. And I do think that would be connected with things like blockchain technology.
You can call me a dirty social democrat all you want. I don't really think the mechanisms as to how our economy works right now are the problem, to be honest. I think the issue that we are having is like a tuning issue. Our economy works incredibly well. Unfortunately, it doesn't work incredibly well for most people and for people of a certain class, for lack of a better term. I think below a certain class, the economy isn't really that interested in your interest and your well-being. And I don't think that's a problem with the mechanisms, with the way that it's been like structured, I suppose, or like built. It's more of how we have decided to tune our system and who we privilege and favor in that system. And most of the time, it favors ownership. The people who own the building, people who own the machines. The system's very much set up in their favor. I think it should be set up in the favor of the people who are actually doing the labor, doing the work. If you own, the person who works on the computer is more valuable to me than the person who owns the computer and does not work on it at all.
Technologies.
But I'm just not. I'm not sure I understand. Right? If you don't believe in intellectual property,
Yeah.
a signature that I guess I'm trying to wonder, how would I make money? I don't think you've answered it. How do I make money in a situation where I think
how
it
it would work is that if you have an enterprise, and by the way, enterprise is not a dirty word. There were Soviet enterprises. You will be compensated with resources necessary for what you need to do based on your performance.
So resources.
So
Is that money?
if you're successful at reaching people based on your content,
Uh-huh.
then you will be compensated with some kind of, you could call it money. You could call it, Marx theorized about labor vouchers. You can talk about tokens.
Labor vouchers is effectively currency with
You can-
restricted currency.
Yeah, it can be
grief.
called whatever. But yes, effectively, you can be
That's
compensated
also what happens
with
when you
some
read too
kind
much
of
like
means
theory
of,
that you don't
acquiring
understand how to communicate
more
to normal
based
people.
on what you put in.
Money.
Any
Sure,
normal person
you can
hearing
call it
this
that. I think the
would
one-
be
So then
like,
if
the
I-
reason-
if,
never
if
mind.
the signature only applies
would
to me
want nothing to
personally,
do
that
with
means
this.
I own that signature and have ownership of the content that I produce, because if it's reposted anywhere, but it all reverts to my signature and compensates me, that means I own the intellectual property.
Right, but this is a form of effective ownership. It's not a form of ownership enforced by a third party. It's a form of ownership that is self-evident in the product. So, for example,
Wait, how is it not? Wait. If it's not enforced, how would you guarantee that Tim gets his money for his video? You need an enforcement mechanism.
I own my personality. I don't need to have the government say, this is Hawes's personality, no one else can have it. as an original person, it's
What?
a form of
All right.
effective.
What if someone takes the content,
Priced above.
inverts the colors, generating a separate key, and then
Mhm.
directs the key to themselves to generate revenue?
If,
Would there be an adjudicating force?
I think unfortunately, I do believe in a harshness of reality where if this is what people prefer and they like it better, you have to step up your game. You know.
So right. So the issue is in a reality where someone can
Okay.
spoof a key.
All right. I've had enough. I'm tapping out. This is fucking stupid. God, the idea that this dude is like some kind of vanguard for the left or communism or whatever, some kind of authority on socialism or Marxism or anything. Oh my God, Jesus, that was bad. Like, no, seriously, that was awful. Like, no normal person would see that and really think to themselves, oh yeah, that sounds like a better system. Nobody thinks that because that was devoid of any kind of understanding or any kind of relationship to regular fucking people, which is kind of the entire point of communism, or like in all of Marx's writing, was putting people at the center of society, not just ownership and not just capital. That's why capitalism is called capitalism, socialism is called socialism. Point is, anyway, good gravy. God, that was awful. Okay, that's the thing. You know the thing that they tell, like at the end of all YouTube videos where they tell you to like click on one of these like things to watch more videos. Yeah, I've been meaning to film one of those. So that's what I was doing. I was just setting it up to film one.